You know that feeling when one single terrible event happens and suddenly it feels like your entire world is just completely collapsing? I mean, maybe you lose a job, you go through a really devastating breakup, or you experience some sudden tragedy, and almost instantly you just feel paralyzed. The future you had planned completely vanishes, and you're left standing in the wreckage, literally unsure of how to take even a single step forward. Well, today in this explainer, we're diving into the source material, mastering the narrative of recovery to unpack exactly why our minds do this. And more importantly, we're going to break down the psychological mechanics of how you can shift from feeling hopelessly stuck in that cycle of despair to actually reclaiming absolute, undeniable control of your life. Because look, this isn't about just ignoring your pain, right? It's about understanding the very real biological ways our minds process adversity and learning how to rewrite the script. Okay, so we so often fall into this massive cognitive trap the very moment adversity strikes. We experience a negative event, and suddenly we unfairly link that one bad occurrence to absolutely every single subsequent thing that happens to us. You miss a major deadline, and within minutes you're totally convinced your entire career is over, you're gonna go broke, and you'll end up a total failure. It is just so incredibly easy to let one massive disappointment become the permanent lens through which you view your entire future. But here's the reality. No one thing is responsible for everything else in life. It's almost mathematically impossible for a single isolated incident to genuinely dictate every outcome from that day forward. Recognizing this fallacy, actually realizing that your brain is actively lying to you about the scale of the disaster, is absolutely crucial. It's the very first step out of the dark. So let's look at how this happens in Section 1, the trap of tragedy. Have you ever felt like no matter what you do or how hard you try, the universe is just totally out to get you? When we start linking that one bad event to everything else in our lives, we develop this deeply toxic psychological condition known as learned helplessness. It's this creeping, dangerous belief that you are entirely at the mercy of your circumstances. You genuinely start to believe that you're nothing more than a victim. And when you believe you're a victim, you completely surrender your agency. You become a total slave to your emotions. You basically stop trying to fix the problem because your brain just tells you, well, what's the point? It's not going to matter anyway. And honestly, this mindset does absolutely nothing to help you improve your situation. In fact, it actively makes things exponentially worse because it strips away the exact belief you need to actually create any positive change in your life. Which brings us to Section 2, the brain's negativity loop. So when we get caught in that web of learned helplessness, we really begin to marinate in what psychologists call low-energy states. We're talking about anger, resentment, irritation, revolt, frustration, pure misery, and deep sadness. But here's the truly terrifying and kind of paradoxical part of human psychology. We actually start deriving a twisted kind of energy from these exact states. We actively bask in our own misery. Instead of seeking a way out of the darkness, we use these heavy, negative emotions as a dark fuel. Wallowing just becomes familiar, It becomes a psychological comfort zone. I mean, it's way easier to sit in resentment and blame the world for your pain than it is to do the hard, exhausting work of actually trying to feel better. And the crazy thing is, this isn't just some temporary mood swing. There is a very real physical process happening right inside your head. Tragedy strikes, and we start feeding on that dark energy of anger or sadness. And because, as the saying goes, neurons that fire together wire together, the more we lean into those negative thoughts, the stronger those neural pathways actually become in our brain. Your brain is literally rewiring itself in real time to become highly efficient at being miserable. You're basically building a massive biological superhighway for your frustration. Because those pathways are now deeply entrenched, your brain just triggers the exact same worsened emotions on repeat. The situation begins to look and feel infinitely worse than it actually is, simply because you've trained your biology to default to despair. So how do we break out of it? Let's jump into Section 3, stopping the downward spiral. Okay, because we now understand the biology of our misery, we can figure out exactly how to disrupt the loop. When a negative event happens, your very first step is basically psychological triage. Your priority is incredibly simple, yet man, is it incredibly difficult. Do not make the situation any worse. When your neural pathways are firing and your resentment is peaking, your impulse is almost always destructive, right? You want to lash out, send that furious email, or make some rash, permanent decision based on a totally temporary emotion. Don't. You have to stop the bleeding. You must choose to simply stay put, exactly where you are. Just pause, take a breath, hold steady without causing any more collateral damage. And once the bleeding is stopped, you face a choice. You can remain there, or you can pull up your socks and make the conscious, deliberate effort to actually get better. Moving right along to Section 4, Reclaiming Your Recovery Story. There is a massive, empowering difference between faults and responsibility. And honestly, realizing this difference is perhaps the single most important mindset shift you can possibly make in your entire life. The stuff that happened to you, the tragedy, the betrayal, the sudden loss, it may absolutely not be your fault. You didn't ask for it, you didn't deserve it, and you definitely didn't cause it. But, and I know this is the hardest truth to swallow, correcting it and recovering from it, that is completely your responsibility. Think of it like someone throwing a heavy rock through your living room window. It's not your fault the window is broken, right? But it is entirely your responsibility to clean up the shattered glass and fix the draft. Because, well, it's your house. Waiting for the universe or the person who wronged you to come back and fix what they broke just keeps you trapped in that learned helplessness. Stepping up to claim the responsibility of your own recovery is exactly how you take your power back. You really have to draw a hard, definitive boundary right here. You must actively decide today that this single trauma is not going to become the epicenter that dictates the rest of your life. We simply cannot allow that one event to be the origin point for a cascade of other negative things. By actively separating the initial tragedy from your future actions, you sever those toxic neural pathways. You stop letting the past author your present. Yes, the terrible thing happened. It gets a chapter in your life story, for sure. It deserves to be acknowledged, but absolutely no way does it get to be the title of your entire book. So the ultimate takeaway from all of this is profound in its simplicity. You, and literally only you, hold the pen. You have the ultimate power to determine what happens next. Now that you know how the negativity loop works, and knowing that you can either feed that darkness or step up and take absolute responsibility for your own healing, well, here's the big question. Will your aftermath be negative or positive?